I want to thank you for taking the time to attend this webinar where we're going to be talking about talent management and global HR version 11, what's new and cool, why you might look at moving to v11 if you're in an earlier version. I give you Melissa, Jackie.
Thank you. So yes, so today we've got a presentation basically on, really want to call it like a differences between 10.2 and 11. So we're not going to be really going over what GHR is. We've done that a few times and we've told you some differences between S3 version 10 and version 11. So what we're doing now is, any of the new cool functionality that's come out in the last year in the later releases. And we've kind of scoured through, some of our presentations that we do with Infor, that Infor, lets us know new and exciting features over the last year, as well as, reached out to all of the consultants working in the system and found out what they're really excited about. So this is kind of a compilation, so this may not be everything out there, but these are things that, our team is really excited and has really changed the way they do work in the system. Okay. Oh, yeah. We don't have a driver.
So just a real quick slide about us. We like to work as a team. We do have a little bit of a cameo coming up, spoiler alert. But we like to work hard and play hard. This is a behind the scenes picture of what it looks like to do a webinar. I think I'm doing the same pose right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so RPI, we've been around since 1999, Infor partner. And so the first thing we want to talk about in relation to version 11 are your deployment options. This is where I'm going to tag out and let Mr. Richard Lee Stout step in and give you a little bit more information about how that would work.
Okay. Hey, thanks, Jackie.
Hey,
Melissa.
Hey, Lee.
So with global HR, we have a variety of different deployment options available on-premise and cloud. For customers that are running global HR earlier versions today, version 11 can be an in-place upgrade, potentially. You'll probably want to couple that with an upgrade to Landmark version 11, because while global HR 11 is the only version of the application on mainstream support today from Infor, there are two branches. One branch runs on Landmark 10.1.1, the other branch runs on Landmark 11. So really to get the most out of your jump to global HR 11, we'd recommend bringing up the environment to the latest version as well. Let's talk about cloud or on-premise deployment. For an on-premise deployment, if you're a Lawson 10 customer, and you have a Landmark server as part of your environment, that Landmark server can most likely accommodate the global HR application. You might just need to add resources onto that box to scale it up a bit. And of course, the upgrade on-premise is an in-place upgrade. Cloud is also an option to host global HR. Now, even if your Lawson application is hosted on-premise, you do have the option to going cloud with global HR, what we would call a hybrid cloud type deployment. That allows you to reduce the number of on-premise system resources that you need to keep up and running. It helps with your maintenance and just keeping a system up and running 24/7 to outsource that responsibility to another group.
So when I see, Infor saying HCM CloudSuite, what does that mean? Does that mean I have to be on the cloud if I want to go to version 11 because they're calling it version 11 CloudSuite HCM?
No, not necessarily. CloudSuite is in the product name, but it's offered in an on-premise deployment as well.
Okay.
I think Infor certainly encourages its clients to move to cloud, and they've made a pretty compelling case for their cloud offering. I mean, the current cloud offering that you can move to is a multi-tenant cloud, which is a deployment scenario that's very popular these days with enterprise applications, and certainly has that deployment scenario we're all familiar with from consumer web applications, whereby different groups of people or different organizations sort of access a shared infrastructure, but depending on who logs in, your data is partitioned into an individual area. So you share back-end resources with other organizations, but your data is kept private.
So what does that mean when I want to take an update?
The multi-tenant system has an update schedule that Infor adheres to, and there are minor updates going in more frequently. So it's a different kind of update schedule than a more traditional on-premise where you might do cyclicals, maybe only once a year.
Yeah, because when I do them once a year, it's like takes like months to do all of my testing, come up with my
deal,
testing scenarios, document all of my customizations, and then making sure everything's good. So then it means like if I'm on the multi-tenant, it's less of that. It can happen a lot quicker because I only have to test maybe 2 things that come out that release.
Yeah, you have small updates going in a lot more frequently. Now, Infor, for their part, promises to test all of the updates in advance. So they have some automated testing built out behind the scenes. And before they're exposing any of their users to new versions, that new version must have already passed their internal testing requirements. And then as a customer of the multi-tenant cloud, you have an option to get sort of preview access to.
So you're not going blind and just
You're not going
flipping.
blind, right? You have
Kind
the
of like
opportunity to review
our phone
and
updates.
test.
We have no chance to do
Right,
a review.
just
It's
find
just
out
like,
what
oh,
happened. Yeah,
there it is, Android.
Right, with the multi-tenant
Oreo.
cloud, you do have sort of a bit of a window to get in and get hands-on with new functionality, and also make sure that your personalizations, your configurations, your flows, your interfaces are all
Still
working
good.
great.
Okay, good. And so where does single tenant fit in it? Does it still kind of fit in?
Single tenant cloud is more of a legacy architecture, and it's not one that Infor is promoting. If you're a client that is on a single tenant cloud today with Lawson version 10, then you can certainly keep global HR within that single tenant cloud. That's a valid deployment method. But if you're not currently a single tenant cloud customer, I don't think there'd be any reason to move towards single tenant cloud for hosting a global HR application.
Awesome. Well, thanks for popping in and
Hey, thanks for having me.
Sure.
All right.
Alrighty, now we're on to some new and exciting features. So the first thing, mobile HCM.
Okay, so we're just going to do overviews here. I'd love to show you everything that's in there, but that's kind of a presentation in itself. So there's a lot more functionality than just view only that you've had prior. You are still able to view, so employees are able to view, the directory of employees. They're able to view their profile, but now they're also able to edit their profile. If I need to make any changes to my address or my name, I'm able to do that by mobile. I can request any time off if I want to take some PTO time, or maybe I'm sick and I'm not in front of my computer. I could grab my phone, I'm like dead in bed, and I can just put in my sick time while I'm in bed. I can check out my paycheck. Jackie's going to kind of show you that's a nice important feature that people would like, so she's going to go into that in a little bit. I'm going to be able to, if I've got any kind of development plans that my manager has assigned to me, I'm able to see that. So if I'm out at a conference and there's certain courses that or sessions I need to be taking, I can pull that up really quickly and register or go to those sessions. I'm able to use Ask HR. So instead of picking up the phone and calling or walking down to HR, if I have a question about my benefits or anything else HR related, I'm able to enter that on a request through the mobile HCM. If you're using LMS, the Learning Management System, you should, I'm hesitant, so depending on how the content is delivered, you should be able to launch your courses on LMS. And then a new program or a new functionality that Infor has been pushing out is the RAVE employee recognition application. And that's really for your employees to be able to get kudos from either their managers, from other employees, from administration, however it may be. They're able to create raves for other employees or receive raves from their colleagues. And the managers are also able to benefit. So if the managers go into mobile HCM, they'll be able to also view the directory. They'll also be able to approve those time off records that the employee has put in. They are able to see, some of the percent fit for their team. So if I want, and I'm not sure why I would do this on my mobile, but I'm able to, if I want to see, where Jackie is in relation to her position, I can pull that up and I can see the fit, as well as I can see my whole team's fit for the area in the organization that they fulfill. And then I'm also able to do some modeling with that. So maybe somebody else in the organization may fit in a vacant position in my team. I can go out there, maybe somebody's expressed interest to me or somebody else on my team that they'd like to join, and I can go and pull that and model whether that person, what that fit is to that position.
So I know you say, I'm not sure why I would do this on my phone necessarily, but I think it is really important for some of our clients who have managers and users who aren't in front of a computer all the time. They say, I don't know how I could ever possibly get a manager to approve this or look at this notification because they're out in the field or they don't have access to a computer. But who doesn't, I know there's people out there, but who doesn't really have a smartphone that they couldn't access this information on? So it is really important for those clients of ours out there that don't have access to a computer. All right, so the title here is Job Search and Mobile and Apply via Mobile. So the mobile application really is awesome for the candidate space. There's a lot of new features that the candidate can do. It used to just be that they could kind of scroll through and look at the available jobs, but not actually apply for them. I think they'd have to send an email to themselves reminding themselves to come back and apply later. But now you can not only search and view those jobs, but you can actually log in or register, complete that profile, your candidate profile, right from your mobile tablet or your phone. You can parse a document or something from a profile like Facebook, I believe, or LinkedIn. You can pull that information right into your candidate profile. You can sign up for job alerts, and you can also fill out the complete application on your mobile, which is great because this is something that wasn't available before, so I know a lot of people are really excited about this. And then the last thing we have listed here is just to manage applications. So if I already have a few applications out there and I wanted to check the status of them, I could go out to my candidate space via mobile and see what the status is of my different applications.
Yeah, and there was a candidate space presentation yesterday, so if you want to learn a little bit more about functionality behind, not as much on the mobile, but new functionality in candidate space, we'll be publishing that. But what we did talk about, or what the team did talk about, was you can have up to 99 applications. After 99, it won't allow you to do anything else. So I don't know about managing 99 applications on a mobile phone, but if they were like, there are some people that are like, I want to work for Google. I'm going to apply for every single job Google has, or I want to work for Disney. And definitely RPI. They might not have 99 applications here. We do not currently have that many positions, but yeah, so that's something they're able to do. And I think in a couple of slides when we get into talent acquisition a little bit more, we'll go more into the resume parsing, because there is some new technology that allows for that was not as easy in prior versions.
Yeah. A couple more pieces on mobile. So this is still about the mobile apply. Hopefully you can see these screenshots. On the left we have all job listings, so you can see you can easily scroll through the job listings here. And then your full job description displays on your phone or your tablet. And then you can come under here and review your own profile, add your skills, your education, your personal information. So this is all updatable right from mobile. Okay, moving into mobile paychecks. This one might be a little bit hard to view, but like Melissa alluded to a little bit earlier, you now have capability as an employee to go in and make updates to your profile. That would include direct deposit information as well. So you can also see your mobile paycheck here, and I think we have gross wages, net pay. You can also break it down by the actual pay stub. So if you needed to get a pay stub, proof of employment, anything quickly on your mobile, you could easily access this.
Okay, so we're going to kind of transition out of the mobile piece, and we're going to go into widgets. So if you are using the web UI and you are using Mingle, you will be able to use widgets across your spaces. So there are widgets, there are a lot of brand new widgets that have been deployed in the last six, 7 months. There's been, I believe, 28 since December that have been released. So if you didn't really use them too much, or you were looking at possibly using the web UI and you're still using the rich client, there are a bunch of cute little widgets that you could put out there that will really personalize your employee and manager spaces. So I've got a couple of them out here. You can see here there are widgets available for your employee, your manager. The generalist has a couple of them, just 2. There are some general ones that kind of go across different areas, and there'll be mobile widgets as well. So, you know, employee can see things like what their PTO balance is. And again, this is all, they log into employee space, and these are just little cards that pop up right at their homepage, and they can figure out which ones they want to see, which are most meaningful for them to see when they log in. So employees can also see any notes. So if they take notes on different things, whether it's on their attendance or when they complete projects to help them with their personal or their performance reviews and appraisals, whatever notes they may want to take about their performance or their job, they can have that up on their home screen in the widget. They can view their profile, and then they can view health components. So maybe this year they may need to get a flu shot and some other vaccinations to stay on the floor. If they're in nursing, they can see those components right in their widget. The manager, you can see right here, my team's time off. This is a really nice one because you can see this week I've got 3 people who are out, and these are the days they're out, and it just gives me that, you know, visual reminder that I'm going to be without some of my staff this week. You'll see one of the ones that 3 of the roles have is expiring credentials, and that's huge for a lot of organizations that their employees are dependent on having certifications that are up to date, and if they do not, they're not able to work, whether it's healthcare or it's driving for any truck driving or anybody else that uses vehicles that has to have specific certifications or licensures. So all 3, the employee, the manager, and the generalist, are able to see the expiring credentials come up in a widget, you know, and you can set the parameters of, is it 30 days, is it 60 days, however much time it is that they will be expiring. And some other things managers are able to see is birthdays and anniversaries. So again, this is something that managers used to have to go to HR and grab a report or a list every month or however often they want to update it. And then Manager Self-Service and Manager Space came out, and they're able to see that now in their listing of their direct reports. Now this gives you, you know, right away, you're able to see a widget that says, okay, this month or this week, these are the birthdays and anniversaries, so you can kind of trigger that recognition for your team.
I think that one and the expiring credentials as well as the expiring health components are probably my favorites. I think it's really important for managers who, again, aren't in the system that often, or if you're on a floor, if you're a nurse manager and you don't have a lot of time to get in, this just pops right up and it shows you very quickly what's expiring, whose birthday's coming up, things that are important, especially the expirations, that you need to know very quickly without digging in for a report.
Yep. We talked about my team's time off. And then some of the general ones you see here, my programs. So this is your transition management, and we're going to talk a bit about transition management in a few slides, but that will let me know, you know, if I've got 3 transition management programs, because either I'm a new hire and I've got an onboarding, and then I've got a program that will get me up to speed on my current job, and then maybe I have another one that is kind of a developmental transition list, maybe not a developmental plan, but something to kind of get me from, you know, maybe I taught high school at my old position and now I'm teaching middle school, so there are some kind of tasks that I might need to do to just transition into that role of a middle school teacher. All those programs will show up, and I can see exactly how complete I am on those transition tasks. Then I can click on them, open them up, and complete different things on those lists. Okay, so benefits, we're going to go into now transition into the traditional global HR, the core. This, you'll see, we've got, this is going to be a rich client. This will be from a multi-tenant sandbox that we have here. You'll see multiple versions here and there of either a rich client, web UI, multi-tenant version, or an on-premise version. So you'll see different looks and feels, and that will give you an idea. There are different looks and feels that you will be able to roll out at your organization. So for benefits, the big things are there's now a run history tab, which will, and this is on the deduction export. So since benefits does need to send some import and send some export files out to update payroll, brings files in to update hours and some other things for calculations. The export file, you didn't necessarily know exactly what has been done. So we do have a history here of all the dates that all of that data has been exported. If something was wrong or you needed to make a change to a deduction or to a series of employee deductions, you can do that, and then you can go in there and actually do a rerun and send that small batch back out. So this is giving you a little bit more control out of what goes out of that import or export, as well as gives you oversight of what's been processed in that transaction.
It's also great that you can see the employee numbers at the bottom, so you know exactly who went over in this batch. I know in a lot of testing that I've been involved with in the past, it was like, well, when did we run it last, and who was in it? And so this is a great kind of audit trail of finding out when the last time you ran it was.
And plug to our last presentation about easy creative reporting. You could easily take that list there and export it to CSV and send it to payroll. So if they need to do any kind of audits, or they want to micromanage kind of the process while you're rolling benefits out at the beginning and ensure that what you sent out of GHR is coming into payroll, you're easily be able to send that list over. There was one more. And it creates the export. So yes, thanks. And then the other thing that's happened in benefits is the interfaces. So the way the interfaces were built in prior versions, it caused a really heavy load on performance, and they took a really long time to go over and come back in. So they have been kind of rewritten, and they're using a CSV now to push and pull, and it's greatly enhanced the speed, processing, and efficiency of sending those export and import files back and forth. If you are transitioning and maybe you're still on 11, you can still use the old interface, but they will be taking that out sooner or later, and everybody will be moving to the CSV files. And then the other thing is now there are some survey questions out there throughout in the enrollment process that will allow the system to determine spousal eligibility, to determine what to offer during the enrollment. See, I thought I saw a question here, so. Okay. And then absence management, not too much. As you may or may not know, when they wrote absence management, most of it was pretty much the same thing that was happening over in S3. So there's not a lot of newer functionality, but the same thing. Oh, and that's super tiny, just seeing it on the screen here. Should have made that a little bigger. So, it's like, oh, all I've got is one little thing. And it's the same issue with the employee balance export that was just causing massive lag time. So now that's been rewritten in CSV, and that's improving performance if you happen to be out there. Okay, time entry. Want me to kick this one, or you want to kick it?
So time entry it's been in GHR. It's a little bit new and improved now. One of the things that Infor is really touting with time entry is your ability to customize it the way you want it to work. So we should have had a screenshot in here about how the user interface is a lot nicer, but in addition to that, you're also able to update configurable fields right within the user interface. So if you're a manager and you're logging in and you have a list of your employees along with the days that you could enter time for them, you can change information right on that time row for the job or the location or the actual time itself. And you can decide what you want the manager to be able to update. So if you don't want them to actually change the job, you want that to default in, you can lock that down. Or if you want to put in more options for the manager or the generalist or whoever is actually entering the time or checking the time, you can use Configuration Console to update that.
Okay, and just to kind of go back, some people don't know there is time entry functionality in GHR. I just thought about that because a lot of organizations use bigger scheduling, time and attendance systems, and smaller organizations want something that they can use that doesn't cost a ton of money or have more bells and whistles than they actually need for their small organization. So there is time entry functionality. It is part of employee space and manager space. So employees can enter their time off or enter exception time. And now a new functionality. If you did know about this and didn't use it because of a couple of these features, or you didn't know about it at all, managers now have a screen that they're basically able to see exactly what the employee sees. So if they need to enter the time for the employee, maybe the employee's out on the field and isn't able to enter their time that day, or maybe they are on PTO or they're out sick, and they need to have their manager enter the time for them. Managers are able to do that for their direct reports. The next one is you're able to create offset time records. So this would be your exception time reporting. So all those organizations that mainly have a big group, or maybe all of their employees are exempt employees. They're exempt from overtime. They get straight 40 hours every week, and they're paid on that. And all they have to do is have a function to put in when they're taking sick time or PTO time. They are able to do that in this kind of like the old, if you used S3, the old time TA module that allowed you to do these tasks. And then it creates a variance report. So there's a little dashboard, or you can send it out, and that's just really saying, okay, Jackie normally has a 40-hour work week, so when she takes a day off, it should just be 8 hours, but for some reason there's 11 hours here. Or maybe I don't allow anything other than 4 or 8 hours for a day, and she's just put 2 hours. So I'm going to send a variance report that something just doesn't look right. So either payroll or HR can take a look at it and question it if it's not according to what your time off policy mandates.
And by that same token, the missing time report option that we also have listed at the bottom. So if there's any missing time at all, same kind of situation, another report just to let you know. All right, now we're into some cool configurations. I'm really excited about some of these configurations because I've been spending a lot of time in Configuration Console lately. So everybody who's used Configuration Console probably knows that you can update business classes and forms and lists. But now in version 11, you also have the ability and the option to create brand new business classes and forms and lists. So this is really exciting. I know Melissa and I are both pumped about the business classes especially. Do we have a question?
Yes.
Okay.
Question. What is a business class?
Okay. A business class is like a table in that it houses, maybe Stout would want to jump back in here, but that it houses information in the system. Unlike a table, it's kind of multiple tables grouped together. There's a lot of relationships in a business class. For example, a resource or employee is a business class, so that houses all the employee information, contact information.
So I can jump in here and help with this. So in the old, with maybe getting too technical, the old relational database, you had your employee table and your fields that just had employee fields, and then you had your personnel employee fields, and you'd have to join them. If you wanted a birth date for your employee, you had to join to another table. So here, to make things again more efficient, it seems redundant, but you will have the same fields that are on multiple screens all in one business class. So it's easy for you to get to it. It's like, I'm on the resource screen. I want to find my resources birth date. I want to find my resources benefits deductions. I don't have to go to a benefits table to get to that business class. Also the field. Business class is a table, business class is also the field. I can see it all on my resource business class. So I may have like 1,000 business classes or fields underneath my greater business class, but it's easy because I know everything on that one screen is going to be there. I'm not going to have to hunt and peck around to figure out where to find some data.
So there are a few times that you do have to hunt and peck. There are still a few times where you do have to relate or join business classes, but like Melissa's saying, for the most part, it's all kind of packed in there. I think we have another question.
Yes, looks like we have a question from the western side of Virginia. When using time entry, or excuse me, when is using time entry preferable to a full-on timekeeping solution like WFM?
So this is mainly for smaller organizations that don't need to do any scheduling. So there's no scheduling components in this. It's mainly I'm going in and I'm entering 3 hours of time right now. It gets a little bit more complicated when you want to start tying hours to activities. That's when you want a full force workforce management. If you need to tie your hours to different pay codes or deduction codes, that's a lot more complicated. This is basically to say I worked 6 hours today and I'm a non-exempt employee, and you take that and you give it one pay code based on who I am, my position, and you pay me on that 6 hours. Or the exception, I work 40 hours and I'm just taking 8 hours off because I don't have to clock my time. There's no clocks. You can interface. I'm thinking, you can interface if you wanted some sort of clocking system into this, but mainly this is for people who don't have clocking systems and don't need heavy scheduling or tying activities to different hours and codes to different hours. Hopefully that is an easy enough explanation.
Any more questions for now?
No.
All set. Okay, great. So back to the configurations, because we're so excited about them. So creating a business class. So we have a few things that you can do when you create a business class. One of the things is reporting. There's a whole bunch of options for things that you can do in GHR that assist you in reporting. So maybe you would want to create a business class that allows you to queue off of a certain field that's in a brand new business class. For select list, this is another thing that we can do. So if you create a business class that has options in it for, let me think of a better example, maybe the
wellness.
Wellness program. So you can create a wellness program that allows employees to enroll in different levels of that wellness program, and then those different levels become options that you can select on the resource themselves to enroll them in that program. So wellness program, not something that's already delivered within GHR today, but you can use a business class to create that wellness program. It becomes a select list for you to select on the employee. For an entire business process, this is kind of like that wellness program again. So if you wanted to...
So say they get points for walking 10,000 steps a day, or they do lunch and learns, or they get their flu shot. So there's multiple things that they can start earning points or dollars for their wellness program or credits. You can create each of those as different fields essentially in your business class and start tracking those. And now you've got your own custom module essentially.
Yeah, and you can do this, not just wellness program, there's a whole bunch of options you can use this for, like sick call-ins, anything you want to track that's not already delivered in GHR, there's a whole bunch of options there. So menus or process boards, we see these in different places throughout the system. This is just an example screenshot of how you would create or change a menu. This is the performance setup menu, so you can remove some of these icons. Maybe you're not using a certain piece of the performance setup. You can completely remove that so that your users wouldn't even click on it or see it. And this goes for menus throughout the application. So this is an example of something that maybe an admin would see, but you can also do the same for your employees and your managers so that they're not clicking on things that you're not using. For example, I have seen clients before in the past who have right-clicked and done the disable function for if they're not using a whole module. And it still shows up there. It's grayed out, but it still shows up in the process board, which is fine, but it's a little bit cleaner if you want to just remove it entirely from the menu. So this is just like any other LPL that you would mess with within Configuration Console. This is the look on the menu. So creating forms. So in addition to being able to create your business classes, you can now create beautiful forms to put your new business classes on. So if you want to do that for a brand new business class, that's an option. Or if you want to take an existing form or screen and customize it to be a little bit more specific to your processes or your organization.
Like have multiple fields that are on different forms, kind of. Again, if you used S3, the Design Studio, mashups, some of those things would give you that functionality to combine lots of different functionality onto one screen, but those are the only things you need.
Yeah.
Or maybe you have somebody like somebody that works at the front desk that does just verification of employment, and they just need like 3 fields from 3 different areas. You can create a form for them that will just be able to do verification of employment inquiries.
The other option too is you can have varied user interfaces. So if I only want this certain user to see this kind of form, but I want all my back office users to see it in a different way, I can create 2 different user interfaces and set that up so certain people see it one way and a different group can see it another way. And then just to slap it on there for a new business process, again, this is where you would take your custom business class and put it into a form that's actually usable and viewable by your organization. This is the LPL again for how you would configure a form. And the one thing I did want to point out in all these screenshots is you have your configured pages and your business classes here on the left-hand side, and the new name for it now is configured forms. And user forms, those are your brand new forms. So configured forms shows all the forms that you've configured, and then user forms, just like you would see user fields, those are your brand new forms.
I just remembered I had a dream about this, right when you said like user fields.
Deja vu?
It just not, yeah. I think I literally had a dream about user fields and configuring them last night. Weird.
How was that poem? Okay.
Shush.
So creating lists. So again, you get to create lists that are custom to what you're doing. If you need your new business class to have a list associated with it, you can do that. It's also great for reporting. So maybe there's a list out there that you've been modifying for a report that you've been pulling out of CSV, or maybe you need to create a flat file for an interface, and the fastest way to do that is to create a list out of it, export it to a CSV, and send that out to a vendor. This is a really quick and easy way to do that. It also allows you to create new views. So if you have maybe like a 2-panel view where you have names at the top and relevant lists beneath it, you can create a new list on your new form for your new business class. The possibilities are really endless here. And again, you can take existing forms and customize them with your new list. And I think I do have one screenshot here. Yeah, just to show you again, user forms and user lists would be the new title for those. Oh, this is a really cool feature too. So within your list, you can add new fields to that list. And you know how you see throughout the system the red alert, the yellow alert, and the green alert, just letting you know, hey, there's something you need to check out here for this value or this field. You can actually set that up on your list too. So I think my example is here is employees enrolled in benefits. So if you have a list of employees and their enrollment dates, and maybe some employees aren't actually enrolled yet, but it's coming up on the due date for enrollment, we can have the red alert raised or a yellow alert just to let you know, hey, you need to go check out this employee and maybe remind them to enroll. And then one quick note, this is existing functionality, but it's something I do want to share. If you're ever on a page and you see a red, yellow, green, blue alert and you're like, gosh, I really don't know what this means, I hover over and it doesn't tell me anything, the fastest way I've found to figure that out is to Control-Shift-Click and go into configuration. And usually in the LPL, it'll look a little bit like this, but it'll say something like raise blue alert when, and it'll tell you what that blue alert means. Just a heads up. All right, so modifying card views. This is a big one. This is an example of what a card view is. It's anywhere in the system where you have a list, and there's here we have employee names, and we have their job or position title beneath them. So this is a card view. It usually takes like a snapshot of the employee and relevant information to them.
And I can see this in Rich Client and Web UI, or is this one or the other?
But this is a screenshot from Web UI, but you can see it in both places.
Okay.
And there's card views throughout the system, not just in employee lists, they're in goals, performance as well. But what you can do now is modify the card views. So for example, for goals maybe, if you don't want to see the rating for your goal within that snapshot of the card view, you can actually modify the card view to take that out so that you'd have to go into it and click it. So this is great when you need to match other configurations. Maybe you're not using that rating at all anymore and you've configured it out of all the other forms, except it still shows up in your card view. Now you can actually modify it so that it won't show up, which is fantastic. And maybe you have other relevant information that you want to pull in that's more specific to what somebody needs to see in a card view or a snapshot. So exciting stuff. And the last really exciting configuration is cube reporting. So I know that cubes are a little difficult. They're sometimes hard to use. It doesn't seem like there's always enough dimensions for you to report on. So great news, you can now configure your cubes. You can add new dimensions, new periods to report off of. So definitely a lot to play with here that's really going to help us out in the delivered reporting area.
Nice. And we don't really have screenshots and not so much on cubes, but there's going to be a lot more HCM analytics rolling out. They've come out with a lot more delivered reports that use the analytic cubes. Earlier we talked about just a couple of them, the turnover and starters and leavers, but I believe there's close to 100 delivered reports now that use cube reporting, and they're in the midst of just developing a lot more and dashboards and other views that will help you deliver reporting for executives or for managers in a manner that is actionable.
All right, so now we're into some specific problem-solving enhancements. So this is like, gosh, I could never revert a historical performance appraisal before. Great news, now you can. So you have the option to not only revert your historical appraisals, but you can actually update historical appraisals. So if you need to go back and update the rating that somebody got, you can go ahead and do that. There's now also acknowledgement routing built into the form, so you can say who it's supposed to go to instead of having to actually go in and modify that IPA flow. Instructions are now included on the appraisal form. Before, they would just show up in that PDF. You would see the instructions, but it wasn't very helpful because you've already completed the form by the time you have it in PDF. Now it's actually on the form itself. And there's really a lot more. I could go on. I know we're kind of close on time here with the slides we have left. I could go on about this much more too, but I encourage you to check out the release notes because I think they really invested a lot of time in performance and goals.
And if you need those, just reach out to us and we can get you a copy of all the latest, greatest in performance and goals.
Definitely. Just want to show a quick screenshot. You can see I'm here on the historical tab, and I've right-clicked on the manager appraisal, and I have the option to revert to in progress. I get the option to remove existing acknowledgments. So if it's already gone through that whole flow of employee acknowledger, manager re-acknowledging it, and the comments here, you can remove those acknowledgments and then send it back through that whole process, or keep those acknowledgments and just kind of revert it to make one single update to it. Exciting stuff. And then occupational health, big one here. I rarely get excited about delete. Normally we say never delete.
Don't delete, don't purge.
Delete. But good news, you can now delete in occupational health. It used to be that you really couldn't do anything once you had entered a value for an employee. If you accidentally entered their flu shot in the year 2107 instead of 2017, that was it. That's all you had to live with the fact.
You had to do a new record afterwards.
Exactly.
Okay.
So you never had the option to delete or edit. Now you can delete and you can also edit. But I'm really excited about the delete feature because it'll help some of my clients clean up a lot of information that they have out there. And just real small here, I have the roles that you need to modify if you don't want them to be able to delete. So right now, those are delivered to allow those roles to delete. If you want to take that away, because delete is pretty powerful and not always good, you'll have to modify those to configure that out. Question?
We have another question from an unknown location. We're currently S3. We use Design Studio to complete custom forms. Is it required to, let me rephrase that. We're currently S3, Design Studio is mentioned for custom forms. Is it required to create custom forms in GHR 10 or 11?
Not Design Studio. That is not a product that will work on Landmark. So that is specifically Lawson System Foundation tool. Here, this is the configurations that Jackie was going over that you could create those kind of custom forms and mashups. You would use the configuration console tool, which is delivered out of the box with GHR. So no new tool, just a little bit of learning to understand how it works, and you can create your own custom forms easily out of the box.
Any more questions? All good? Yeah. All right, talent acquisition. First one here, job and position descriptions, responsibilities, and other information. Those are those three like free text fields on the first page of a job or a position. Those are now editable with rich text. So that's something that I think recruiters would be really happy with, because that's exactly what gets posted onto the candidate space to display the job information. So if there's things you want bolded or highlighted or underlined, you're now able to do that right within the job and position setup. Did you want to take the integrated?
Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit, not too much about it, but there is the transition management functionality came out in the latest release within the last year or so, and it's not only onboarding, and that's why they don't just call it onboarding. It's onboarding, cross-boarding, and off-boarding. So in the realm of talent acquisition, it's going to be onboarding, and you'll be able to set up your onboarding checklist. So push this out to your employee to say you need to be able to take, you need to fill out your direct deposit form, your I-9, fill out your employee profile, grab your social, your birth date, all the things that you have in your onboarding checklist. You can create and push that out within transition management. And then the resume parsing is, we talked about that at the very beginning. Prior to the release when Burning Glass came out, you used telemetry. You had to pay for it, and it wasn't really easy. It was kind of an interfaced product that just was a little bit more difficult to get for your candidates to do their resume parsing. Now they're using a technology called Burning Glass. It's embedded within the technology or the talent acquisition framework, and it is seamless. So it's very easy to be able to go in there, and with mobile apply, you don't want to be filling out an employee application on your phone. So you can go, find your resume sitting on, Google Drive or Dropbox somewhere, load that up, and then use the resume parsing functionality to just fill out that application for you mobily. And this works on desktops, laptops, wherever else. And I think the functionality, I'm trying to remember back to Matt and Ashley's presentation yesterday in Candidate Space, is it's getting there with social media. It supports LinkedIn, Facebook, and Google Plus right now, and they're trying to get some more applications, social applications, to be able to use to pull in more information for building out your profile. Okay, yeah. So here's your menu for transition management. Your new release, latest releases of version 11. You will now see transition management as a process board or a menu. And we can go here. I know these are super tiny, but I just kind of want to show you. So I've created a transition program for onboarding here, my external onboarders. And now I've got my content. I need them. There's a landing page. I want to have a confidentiality page, dress code, employee landing page, and a packet. And then within that content, so that's going to kind of push them through the checklist. Now I've got every single form that goes into each of those pieces. So you can build it as easy or as complex as you need to. Infor does have partnerships with organizations such as Symmetry that does the W2 or W4. I switched those up. The W4, so it is the actual government page where they're able to do their tax withholding, and there's a couple of other partnerships with I-9 and some learning management content partnerships that you can. Everything's very seamless. You don't have to send them out to do any of their government forms. Everything can be done within the Infor transition management piece.
Couple more.
We have some more.
Oh, questions?
Let's wait till the end because I only got like.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got some. There's we're ending it with one of the really coolest features and functionality ever. So
real quick, we'll rush through it.
yeah.
So just on the resource, there's a few awesome updates. Address information is now part of the rehire action. This is both the TA action and the GHR action. It used to be you would be rehiring someone and you couldn't update their address. You could even configure it into the form, but it wouldn't flow down to S3 as part of the rehire action, which was always a pain. So it made it a little bit complicated and made you have to like time out the actions that you entered. But now it's part of the rehire action, so it's included and you don't have to worry about the timing to make sure all that information flows to S3. So employee bank information can also be updated in S3, and there's now interface export records that will send that information to S3. So really the employee doesn't have to go in there at all to update that information. It's available in employee space. And then another cool one, employees can actually initiate their own resignation in employee space. So again, I think we've had clients who had this in S3, so they'd still route their clients to go into S3 to make this update, but now it's right in employee space itself.
Okay, so one of the coolest things, I mean, I guess on my side, I think you have yours that you think are the coolest. I think this is one of the coolest because we usually create IPAs to do this. So now in the latest versions of 11, you can do provisioning upon hire without having to create a custom flow to say, I have hired somebody, so now let me give them employee space, let me give them manager space. If they're a back office user, let me give them generalist roles, whatever functionality that they need. This is all within your GHR Lawson or Infor product. This is not going out to create a Active Directory or authentication account. That still needs to be done. If you want it all automated with a little bit of IPA, you probably update this technology to do that update to your authentication software. But what this would say is, I've got a screenshot here that says, okay, for this organization, you can create different rules for every one of your organizations. Upon hire, I want to provision a new actor upon hire. I can also do it during rehire. I'm saying I don't want to do that because I might actually inactivate, which we're going to go over in a sec, and I don't want to recreate a new actor. I want to just activate an inactivated during a rehire. Use employee ID as actor. I don't want to do that because, again, my authentication system may use some other way of creating my ID. And use mingle create. We also don't want that happening. But you can put the default role. So now I say, you know what, everybody, I'm just going to use this for employee space. Everybody gets an employee space account. So let me just give them that employee role. And then for position roles, I can also, if it is different positions get different access, I can now create rules to say based on their role. So position number 4, recruiter, will get the recruiter role and the requisition approver role on top of that employee role. So you can completely automate all of your security assignments. And then if we go to the next one, go back, I have that little actor group assignments. That's going to be this. And if you also create groups, which we talked about a little bit on pushing different reports out to bigger groups. You can also mass create security for different groups. If you're hiring on 20 people to do an engagement, you can mass assign all of that through active group assignments.
Maybe or something.
Or acquisition, yes, that's a good one. And then the next one is the relationship status security. So now I've created this employee role and they have their security, but they're moving all over the system depending on, they may be moving from a part-time to a full-time role. They may be moving into a managerial role. At that point, I want to start assigning different things. Well, here I've just filtered for my employee relationships. And so for all active people, I just want to leave it as is. But if they move to a disability, so there's an action that moves them into a status, relationship to organization, or relationship status of disability, I want to inactivate that actor because that person's not here right now. They don't need to be logging into the system. But if they're laid off or they're terminated, I don't even want to activate. I want to inactivate them and I want to just delete everything because we don't expect them to be coming back. And if they do, we'll recreate it at that point. But for the most part, I want to keep my system clean and delete that out. So you're able to set that up for all of your relationships to organization and each of the statuses that roll up to those relationships.
That is pretty cool.
I love it.
All right.
Might put some of our developers
You got time for a couple questions?
We do have some more questions.
Shoot.
Okay.
Remember, we have an overtime coming later if there's too many.
We're on version 11.0.0.32 and have burning glass. Is there a better version of burning glass than what we have now, or are you talking about what we already have?
It's what you already have. So prior to that version, they used technology called telemetry, and it was a third-party application that you had to license separately. So many people would roll their candidate space out without the resume parsing functionality, or they would have to subscribe to that to be able to use it. And it wasn't even that seamless or nice, so people just did without it.
Next question is transition management included with GHR, or is it a separate module that needs to be purchased?
It's included.
We don't represent Infor, but
We don't, but it is, the piece that we were talking about, the onboarding, is considered part of the talent acquisition module. And then there is transition management for, as I mentioned, cross-boarding. So if you're transferring somebody to another position and you have a checklist for them to things they need to do at their current position, that is core functionality, as well as offboarding.
So I would just mention that the best thing to do is talk to your Infor AE. Mention to your Infor AE that you heard about it from RPI consultants, so we get a little credit for that.
thank you. Is that all the questions we have for now? Excellent.
It is.
So I want to thank Jackie and Melissa